title of the chapter 2 is the research methodology, wherein it has 6 subcomponents. And we will be discussing the first 3 components today. Okay? The research method and then followed by the respondents is something that you had already when last sem, yeah, diba? And then the last part will be the data gathering procedure. So more likely class sa part 2, refresher tayo dito and some input for you to have generate your sample size in a very meaningful and easy way. Okay? So later, itatakal din natin siya. So class, to begin with, let's have first a question here as a refresher. Okay? How to generate specific questions. What are the things that we need to consider in generating specific questions found on your statement of the problem? Tina, what are your bases in writing or in generating your specific questions on your statement of the problem? Yes, Rexel?
Connected po dapat dun sa problem po.
Yes, number 1 is it must be connected on your main problem. Okay, so thank you for that, Rexel. That's also correct answer. Another? Yes, Anel?
Hindi po ba, ma'am?
Yes, loud and clear.
The specific questions must be based on your independent and dependent variables that is also stated on your title.
Very good. Okay, that's the answer that I'm expecting and looking for. Yes, the specific questions must address, okay, your independent and dependent variables found on your research title. That is why they are connected from one another. And then, what will be the follow-up questions for that once you already have generated question for your IV and DV? Would you like to add some? Yes? Nakita ko si Ilani eh. Press, may dadagdag?
Yung pangatlo pong question, dapat po magkasama po yung sa independent and dependent variable po.
Exactly. You need now to draw the connection between your IV and DV in a form of relationship ba yan? Effect, impact, or influence because you need to be consistent on the parameters that you are going to conduct with based on your objective of the study plus on the research title. Wait lang class ah. Biyak yung aso. Alright, so now that we're clear on the specific questions, okay, why? Why is it necessary to go back with that? Because class, we will be justifying here the difference between research methodology from research method. Okay? When we say methodology class, it is the entire plan. Okay? To answer your research questions found on your statement of the problem. And then the method class, the research method, these are the strategy that you're going to execute for you to be able to answer your questions found on your statement of the problem. It's a matter of kung apply natin siya in a real life situation. Is the architect, okay, and the civil engineer. So si architect siya yung design, plan, okay, and then si civil engineer siya nag-execute nung plan na gusto ni architect. Yung design ni architect. So, lagi silang magkaaway, di ba? So, class, why is so important to listen on our today's discussion? Though lahat naman ng discussion natin is so important to listen with. The special about research method class. Okay? No matter how good you are in writing your related literature, that you are very good in summarizing and even in paraphrasing. Okay? Kahit tinalo mo pa si J.K. Rowling in narrating and weaving the connections between the information of your gathered RL and RS, kung mali ang research method na gagamitin, okay, you cannot answer your questions found on the statement of the problem. Remember that. Okay, I have here, class, an example. Okay, okay, I have here an example. We have here our IV and our DV, wherein our independent variable is the online discussion, like we are doing right now. Okay, and your dependent variable is the quiz result. Plus, now imagine, pay attention on this. We have here, okay, one single independent variable and dependent variable. And we have here four boxes, okay? Present dito, class, the IV and the DV. The same IV and DV stated here on the green part. But, okay, but the findings might be differ from one another depending on what research method you'll be utilizing. Okay, let's have an example here. So our IV and DV teaches online lecture and the quiz after. So it's simply drawing the relationship, okay, the effectivity, okay, of the teacher's discussion in online and then quiz after. So we have here another, okay, separate box wherein we have the same IV and the same DV, class, kaya lang with different research method wherein there will be two separate groups, example, STEM 1 and STEM 2, okay, and they receive the same quality of discussion online, and then they will be having their quiz, okay. Probably, because there will be a different result or findings because you use different method or research method here. So here we have another box. So this time, there is a pre-quiz muna, class, and then followed by the intervention, which is the discussion of the teacher, and then there will be a post-quiz. So again, class, we have the same set of IV and DV, but they differ from the research method, and definitely there will be a different, okay, findings. I hope, class, you are getting the point here. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, class, a while back na no matter how good you are in writing, but if you use a wrong research method, you cannot answer your statement of the problem. Okay, so we have here another box, okay, with the same IV again and DV. Kaya lang, we have two separate groups, just like the other one. However, class, okay, the first group, okay, they had their quiz without the discussion. And then the other group, okay, receive a quiz with a discussion. And then probably, class, there will be a different findings for that, okay, compared to the other, okay, research methods applied here in these samples. So, class, no, wala pang pangalan what type of research methods were being discussed or explained with these samples. What I'm trying to imply here, class, I want you to remember this. In any study, remember this, a research title and its statement of the problem plus the conceptual framework must agree from one another, for it will reflect on which research method to be used. Okay, so class, when I started studying the art of conducting a research, gusto kong ma-achieve yun. Once I read the research title, I can picture, I can visualize what research method is applicable, ideal for this kind of research title. Ayun, gumagana na yung brain cells ko, picturing, visualizing kung ano yung ginawa ng researchers in this kind of research title. Ayun yung gusto kong ma-achieve. And then, minsan naman, simply based on the title. Okay, when I read the research method, the succeeding parts or chapters of the paper, and then marirealize, oh, tama yung na-teach ko. Or maybe, kapag naman may mali, I learned something on it, diba? Oh, it's really applicable din naman pala in this type of research title. Okay? Alright. So, class, since we are dealing with a quantitative research design, okay, it has two distinct methods or research methods. We have the experimental and the non-experimental. Last na sana nasusundan, we are dealing with a design, research design, which is quantitative because we are done with the qualitative, okay? And it has two distinct research methods, the experimental and the non-experimental. So class, since we are not, okay, conducting an experimental based study wherein wala tayong laboratory procedures, we are being limited by our situation right now, we'll be simply focusing on the non-experimental. Okay, but since class, an experimental part pa rin siya of the quantitative research design, which is also applicable on your research topics or titles. Okay, class? So, under non-experimental, we have the descriptive. Kaya kung makikita ninyo, no, kung nagbabasa kayo ng mga research papers, you kept hearing or reading descriptive research method, descriptive correlational, descriptive comparative. What makes descriptive different from descriptive comparative, correlation, ganun. Later, ma-justify na natin. So, under also class of non-experimental, we have the causal comparative and the developmental. And all of this class can be done, okay, by having an observation, evaluation, or data from archives and through survey. Okay? And then under experimental class, matatouch din natin to class for us to establish the difference between the non-experimental. Pero mas magpo-focus tayo with the non-experimental. Okay? Alright. So class, speaking of non-experimental, so we have the first one, the descriptive research method. Okay? And class, from the word itself, though we had this last sentence, pero iuulitin ko siya sa inyo. When we say descriptive, okay, from the word itself, it just simply describes the collected information and no changing or controlling or manipulating of the environment or with your variables as is siya class. That is why it answered the question, what is the current phenomena? Okay, so mga sample descriptive research studies class, it can be about beliefs, evaluation, trends, impact, influence, attitudes, the level of attitudes, perceptions, awareness, and satisfactions. This class will fall under descriptive research method. Baka yung iba sa inyo, ganito yung study nila. Okay, that falls under descriptive research method. So class, we have here sample studies. Okay, and I want you to read carefully these sample studies and answer this question. And the question goes like this. Is it evident both the IV and the DV on this sample research methods? Are the IV and DV on this sample research studies evident or not? Okay, it's answerable by yes or no, class. Once again, are the IV and the DV on these sample studies evident? Yes, Leon?
IV and DV?
DV.
Somewhat, yes po.
I like the answer, somewhat, yes. It's a matter of yes or no, but you can answer it somewhat on this case. So Leon, no, if you want to expound your answer, go. Pero I'm just simply expecting for yes and no answer.
Yun lang po.
Okay.
Like for example, in number 6, attending online classes. Yung online classes IV, attitude of students, DV. Pang ganun po. Yun lang.
Yes, okay. Thank you for that. How about the others? It's a matter of yes or no, class. I don't need your explanation. Are the IV and the DV on these sample studies evident or visible? Wala nang matapang. Okay, class. In our subject, there is no wrong and correct answer. It's a matter of how are you going to defend your answers, because at the end of the day, class, the final requirement of this subject is the final defense. Diba? That's why I love the line of Luwalhati Bautista on her Bata-Bata, paano ka ginawa? Minsan wala namang problema sa sagot, may problema sa tanong. Okay, it's really on the matter how are you going to defend your answer. No more? Nag-agree na ba with Leon's answer or not really na? Ma'am, pwede pass muna tapos malalaman na lang namin kapag po ni-review nila. Grabe naman. Grade 12 na, wala pa rin stand. Ma'am, natatakot kaming ma-judge. So, baka mali yung sagot namin. Okay. Would you like me to reveal now the answer? Reveal ko na ba, class? Okay. I assume nag-reveal. Yes, then 3. The IV and the DV on the following sample studies are evident. Ma'am, seryoso, parang hindi, somewhat na. Actually, class, yes. Both IV and DV are visible on these sample studies. Ma'am, how? Class, no, just for you know. The respondents also can, okay, play as one of the variables on a research item. Because possible, class, that your respondents have their demographic profile that will serve as your sub-variables on the statement of the problem. I hope no, you can picture it on your mind. Okay, let's have here, class, an example. SSG officers, leadership capacities as perceived by students. So we have here 2 variables, the students and the SSG officers' leadership capacities. So probably, class, like what I've said to you a while back, that the respondents can function as the variable of the study. Kasi, class, probably, for an instance, among the strand and tracks in senior high school, mas na-appreciate ng mga yung students yung leadership capacities of the SSG, probably because majority of their subjects has something to do with leadership. Ganon. Okay? So there's something with their demographic profile. So another example here, class, evaluation on consumers on their internet providers. So class, here we have the internet providers and the evaluation of consumers. So class, the consumers can serve as your variable depending on their profile. Baka kasi mas malayo sa kabihasnan, mas negative yung magiging evaluation nila on their internet providers. Okay? Possible also on kung ano yung service they are experiencing. Halimbawa, anong promo nila, ano yung tawag dito, in-avail nila na service from their internet providers. Okay, so meaning to say there's something with the demographic profile of the respondents. Same goes with the perception of the services on fast food chain in Bulacan. Okay, since taga Malolos ka, mas na-appreciate mo yung mga ganitong what do you call this? Taste and services of the food. So again, there's something with the profile of the respondents. Okay? Alright. So class, I want to delineate this part. Baka kasi pag nagkahiwalay-walay tayo, sinungaling si Ma'am Kang, mali sinasabi ni Ma'am Kang. Kasi class, okay, you'll be encountering, okay, sample studies, okay, na based din with the perception, evaluation, level of awareness, satisfaction, the attitude, beliefs, and influences in a qualitative form, wherein instead of having a survey, nag-undergo sila with an in-depth interview, which is also considered correct, mga anak. Okay? You can use, okay, the same research method, pero magkaiba naman ng research design. Okay, are you getting the point here? Example, no? You'll be determining the perception of the respondents about the leadership of Duterte. So, meron kang survey questionnaire. So, you conducted a survey. And then you want to have an in-depth interview from someone. And then you conducted your interview. So class, on the first one, you conducted a quantitative research design of study. And the other one is qualitative. Maybe and probably you have the same research method, which is descriptive, for an instance, dealing with the perception, evaluation, awareness, and so and the like. Okay, that is also possible. That is also correct. Okay, are you now getting the difference between a research design, the connection of the research design to the research method? That is the beauty of research class. If you just, what you call this, scrutinize, okay, the small details that could separate it, okay, from one idea from another. Okay? Mas ma-unlock pa yung beauty of research method class later on. Okay? So, under descriptive class, ito na yung sinasabi ko sa inyo a while back. Ma'am, paano kung hindi po kami for perception, for level of awareness, the attitude, level of ganito satisfaction, the beliefs, the attitude. Pero, ma'am, we are after to the correlation, the relationship, the comparison. Yes, class. That also falls under descriptive. Kaya lang combination na siya. Ngayon, no, ito yung part na you asked this last sem. And I hope and I pray masasagot ko siya, ma-address ko siya ngayon. Okay? So here, class, we have descriptive research method. Okay? And isang under na is the comparative correlation. Okay? So class, a comparative correlation is also non-experimental. That is why class, under tayo ng descriptive, which is non-experimental. Okay, meaning to say, there is no manipulation or controlling of variables. Okay, we're just simply establishing the relationship between the two variables, the IV and the DV, and then we'll be investigating the direction and the magnitude. Ma'am, ano na naman yan? Later class, I'll be discussing this part. Okay? Alright. So class, we have here sample studies. Okay? For our graded recitation class, kindly identify the IV and the DV on the sample titles. Okay, number one, kindly identify which one is the IV and the other one is the DV. Wait medyo kabado pa kami. Okay. A while back class on our sample studies, the respondents function also as the variable of the study. This time around class in the descriptive, comparative, or correlational, distinct na class, mas evident na the IV and the DV. Okay, so for your graded recitation, group 1, paki-record which one is the IV and the DV on the sample study number 1. Yes, Rex?
Yung independent po, yung computer games and mathematical competencies. Tas po yung dependent, ABM students.
Okay. So, thank you, Rexel. Siguro si Rex yung answer niya parang mayroon pa rin influence nung naging discussion natin a while back. Okay? For Rex, the answer on the number 1 is the IV is the computer games and the dependent variable is the mathematical competencies. And your respondents are the ABM students. Okay. So, a while back kanina class, on our example, Okay? Your respondents can function as the variable of the study because of their demographic profiles or their backgrounds. Okay? So this time around class, in our set of examples, distinct na, which are the IV and the DV, at the same time present na din si respondents, but the respondents no longer function as your IV and DV. Okay? Alright. So thank you for that, Rex. How about the sample study number 2? Identify the IV and the DV. Yes, Rich?
Yung ano po, yung salary po yung IV, then yung DB po is retention. Then yung private health workers po is yung mga respondents po.
Yes. Very good, Rich. So class, now don't get confused. Okay? Or panic na, wait, hindi kasi magkasunod agad. Ganon, di ba? So in this case, class, so we have limited number of words. Baka mahirapan kayo, mag-jump kayo agad na hindi naman automatic magkasunod agad si IV and the DV. So usad kayo for another words, di ba? In our case kasi class, magkadikit totally yung IV and our DV. At the same time, isa lang yung words na indicated. Isang word lang indicated. Unlike dun sa previous example natin, marami. Diba? So, very good, Rich. The IV is the salary, and then the DV is the retention of the respondents, which are the private health workers. How about this specific title number 3? Identify the IV and the DV. Yes, Elijah? Nauna si Elijah ng very, very light.
Try lang po.
Okay, go.
Yung IV po, yung level of support of parents. Then yung DV po, yung frequency of tardiness.
Okay. Ba't ka nag-stop? Grabe ka naman. Sige, let's hear your classmates add their answer. Yes, Ninyo?
So po, yung
Okay.
IV po is yung frequency of tardiness and yung DV po is yung level of supports. Tapos po yung ano po tawag doon, yung respondents po is yung parents.
Okay. All right. So, okay na, may ako nare-replyan yun. So, with this research title, ang cute ng sagot ninyo. Siguro depende to, no, on the perception of who is reading, no. So, it's a matter of visiting the statement of the problem in determining which one is the IV and the DV. Okay? But our independent variable here is the level of support of the parents and the frequency of the study habits. Sige. Frequency of tardiness. Okay. May effect ba yung level or may influence ba relationship? Kasi hindi naman indicated kung ano yung ginamit na class. The level of support of the parents in the tardiness of the students. Okay? All right. How about on the specific? No class, no? Don't just simply focus on the arrangement of the words. Analyze. Okay, analyze the title. Okay? So about the sample study number 4. Yes, Kit?
Yung ano po, yung independent variable po yung study habits. Tapos po independent naman po yung scores in major examination.
Kinikilig ako sa Stanford. Thank you so much, guys. Baka sa inyo class, no, hindi masyadong big deal. Mamandali lang naman eh, but class, it means a lot for me. Okay? To give you an idea, class, I had my part-time job in a state university wherein they asked me to be their thesis advisor, and I was so ang tawag dito, frustrated. Okay? Because they are not particular on which is the IV and the DV on their paper. And I do understand because they have limited solid foundation about research. That is why if I have the opportunity to discuss this matter, I would like to do so. I would love to. Kasi ayoko na kayong makadagdag sa mga estudyanteng they are dealing with that study that they are not familiar with or aware on what's going on. You know, how's that even possible? You're conducting a study na hindi ka pa particular kung ano yung inaaral mo. So, ano ina-expect mong findings? How are you going to defend your answer if you are not aware on what you are dealing with? Okay? Bakit parang galit kayo sa amin, no? I'm just saying na it's big deal to me that you can identify which one is the IV and the DV. Okay? Very good. So, last sample study, identify the IV and the DV. Medyo mahaba. Yes, Michaela?
Ma'am, try lang po.
Okay, go.
Yung IV po is exposure on public issues on social media, and yung DV po is eagerness to initiate for better
Anyway,
leadership.
yes, very good. So, class, no, on the sample study number 2, limited yung number of words. Kaya baka ma-confuse which one is the IV and the DV. And then on the on the sample study number 5, okay, baka ma-confuse with the IV and the DV because of the lengthy masyado yung sample study title. Okay, so the point here, class, okay, don't just simply focusing on the arrangement of the text, the number of words, analyze the title. Okay, all right. So we're done with just identifying the difference between a descriptive research study and a descriptive, comparative, or correlational research study. Okay, so now class, ito na yung sinasabi ko a while back na in descriptive comparative research method, we are also investigating the direction and the magnitude of relationship between your IV and DV. So let's have here, class, the direction. Okay, and this one is the positive correlation. So class, the higher you get paid, okay, the happier you get. So, just like in your case, nag-allowance pa ba kayo, class? Tayo lang nag-uusap dito para baka may nanay kayong katabi, ha? May allowance pa rin kahit online class. Parang the higher your allowance is, okay, the more sipag you study. Ganon. May allowance. Class, yung mga sasabihin ko dito is hypothesis lang natin. You're conducting a study, okay, to determine kung mare-reject yung ating hypothesis. Wala, si Clyde lang meron. Hati tayo, Clyde. Ayun, si Erica meron din. Ayan. So, sige, sabihin nyo kay advisor. Ganito, ma'am, sabihin niyo pag nagkaroon ng PTA meeting or meeting, sabihin niyo meron pong study nagpapatunay na the higher the allowance is, the higher the sipag of us as students. Ganun. Para konting lang. Inspiration para mag-aaral, di ba? Ayan. Sukli lang, Neil. Grabe, Neil, no? Baka naman yung sukli dyan, libo-libo din, Neil, ha? Pambayad ba ng Shopee? Ay, pwede na rin yung order lang ng order. So, yun, class, that is example, a positive correlation. Same direction. Okay? Class, ha, again, hypothesis to. You'll be conducting a study to identify kung mare-reject ba o hindi yung ating hypothesis. Okay? And this one, class, baka kasi akala ninyo applicable lang yung positive correlation if the study is positive. Kasi we have here, class, another example of a positive correlation. Okay, the longer the lockdown is, the higher the number of unemployed are. Okay, so negative yung study, class, yung second yung study, but again, okay, same direction. Okay, this is positive correlation. Okay, so another example natin, class. Okay, price of petrol increases, the demand for electric car also increases. Just like in biogesic. So class, nung naging limited, the more na tumatagal na limited yung supply of the biogesic, parang the higher din na nakilala yung different brands of paracetamol. Okay? Alright. So, applicable to sa marketing study class. So, now let's proceed on the negative correlation. So, ano sila class? Magkaiba yung direction. So, let's have this example. The higher the exposure you have or dealing with your social media, the lower, okay, chance you read books. So, class, again, it's just an hypothesis. You'll be conducting a study to verify if your hypothesis will be rejected or not. Okay, so another example of negative correlation, the more works you have, okay, the less free time you have. Okay, all right. So now we have the positive and negative correlation. Now let's have the no correlation. And then class, ito na yung pinakamasaklap. Okay, the most tragic part in conducting a research, when you found out that there is no correlation at all between your IV and your DV. Yun na yata yung pinakamasakit class. Meaning to say, there's no such thing as a problem with your topic. Kasi nga it was found out that there is no correlation at all between your IV and your DV. That is why this is the most tragic part in conducting a study. So let's have an example here. Okay, there's no significant correlation, okay, between the length of the relationship of a two couple, okay, to get married. Okay, parang ito yung makikita nyo sa Facebook na pinagtagpo pero hindi tinadhana. Ayan. So class, once again ha, yung mga may jowa dito na matagal na, I'm not saying na totoo yun. You are conducting a study na to verify if it's true or not. Okay, ang ganda rin itong gawin class pag qualitative yung study kasi you'll be conducting an interview, identifying what the reason. Imagine, 10 years na kayo as girlfriend and boyfriend pero you did not ended up as married couple. Ganun. Ayan. So, another example of no correlation is, again class hypothesis lang to. Walang kinalaman ng social status in terms of the number or what type of circle you have. Ganun siya. Okay, example lang yan, class. If you want to determine and then conduct a study. Okay? Alright. So, class, let's move naman on the magnitude. So, class, it's not enough to simply say na there is a positive correlation, negative correlation, diba? You need to provide, okay, how positive the correlation is and how negative the correlation is. So we have here the magnitude. So we have here the indicators, the numerical data, and then their interpretation in determining the nature of the correlation, if negative yung naging outcome, and then in terms naman kapag positive yung naging correlation. Okay? From absolute correlation to negligible correlation. Okay, that is the magnitude. Being detailed and specific about the level of the correlation. Okay? Alright. So, class, ito nakikita to class kapag sinusulat nyo na yung statistical treatment Pala lang, gusto ko lang ipakita sa inyo yung illustration. This is the illustration of the positive correlation. This is the y-axis and the x-axis. Okay, positive correlation. And then this is the illustration of the negative correlation. And this one is the illustration of the no correlation. So, naka-scattered, spread yung responses or answers of your respondents. Okay? All right. So don't you worry, class. Ma'am Cam will provide us definitely a format and sample content of the chapter 2 to serve as your guide. Okay? Kasi usually, class, may mga university format na gusto nila mag-appear pa itong mga illustrations. Meron din naman mga university na there's no need. Ganun. So, tignan nyo na lang on our format kung meron ba dapat mag-appear na ganito, itong illustrations or wala. Okay? Okay, Charlene. Recorded naman yung discussion, mababalikan. Sana makabalik. Okay, now class, we're done with the correlational or the comparative. So now let's proceed to the descriptive research design. Under naman niya is content analysis. To give you an idea, class, the background, when I was in college, this is my research method. So I am dealing with the descriptive content analysis method. Where in class, I don't have a respondents. Okay, wala akong taong respondents. May manggagaling yung raw gathered data ko. Okay, from the archives, from the data ng such organization, such company, okay, or such schools or agency departments. So wala akong i-interviewin, wala akong pagkakanda ng survey. I'll be just simply relying on the archives, data given to me or I gathered from different sectors. Okay? So, ma'am, paano po yun? Ano yung tool na gamit kung wala kayong interview questionnaire, wala kayong survey form? So, class, may tinatawag na code book and it looks like a checklist. So, meron pa rin class na tool na gagamitin. It's not just baka kasi iniisip nyo lang, ang pwede lang maging tool is the interview questionnaire and the survey form. So, may pinatawag pa tayo class na checklist or the code book. Okay? Pakikita ko yan when we have the discussion or about the research instrument. Okay? Alright, so an example study of this class is this. Okay? Comparative analysis of the top 4 online news portals on framing Bongbong Marcos. So class, no, ang daming pwedeng possible na research method dito. Comparative siya, class, kasi I have 4 online news portals. Iko-compare ko how they frame Bongbong Marcos. And how I'm going to gather my data is through archives, through content analysis. Wherein I'll be collecting class, okay? Siguro mag-delimit ako. Duration niya is from October, mga news articles published by the top 4 online news portals. And then from October to December 2021, hanapin ko lahat ng articles pertaining, concerning Bongbong Marcos. Paano ba siya piniframe? Paano siya pinaportray? As the son of the late President Ferdinand E. Marcos or Marcos itself as a candidate for presidential balls. Okay? Ganun yung sample content analysis. Okay? So, kaya pa? Nakakasunod? Okay, so class, no? We're done with the descriptive correlational and done with the and its sub methods. Sana class, no, naiintindihan nyo na ngayon. Okay? When we say research design, it has distinct 2 methods, the experimental and non-experimental. And then under non-experimental, we have the descriptive, causal comparative, and the developmental. And then under descriptive, we have the correlational, we have the content analysis, and we have the comparative. Okay? So, naiintindihan nyo na dapat class kung saan nang-originate. Why we are conducting a descriptive comparative study. Kasi class, during the defense, usually kasi nasagot ng mga respondents ay mga researchers ganito. Kapag tinanong ng panel, why did you use this research method? And then sasagot si researchers with conviction, no? With too much confidence. Sasagot niya the definition of the research method. Thus, the question is why, not what. Bakit binibigyan niyo ang definition ng panel? The best way to answer that question is to go back with your statement of the problem. Because you are looking for the relationship, and therefore we're gonna be identifying the direction and the magnitude of the relationship between our IV and DV, and not just simply stating the meaning. Okay? Sana may ganun during the defense. May panel na magtatanong na, do you think your research methods applicable on your study? Ganon. Yes, Rich. Noted din. Basta nasa attendance yan, i-note mo lang. Okay? Alright. So now we have the causal comparative is another method under the descriptive. Okay? So we have here the causal comparative. So class, now remember the meaning. Okay? In causal comparative class, you are determining the cause or reason for pre-existing differences of groups of individual. Okay? So meaning to say class, wala pa rin kayong i-manipulate or i-control na variables here. Okay? But it is not powerful as the experimental research. Kasi nga, walang manipulation or controlling of variables, specifically the independent variable. But, okay, just unlike the descriptive, okay, titingnan mo lang naman the relationship, diba? But in the causal comparative class, you'll be now determining the cause or the reason. Mas higher level siya ni descriptive. Descriptive correlational or descriptive comparative. Okay, to have a clearer picture of that class, I have here an example. Okay, class, this is under descriptive correlational. You're just simply seeking for the relationship of your IV and your DV. Okay, the quality ba the teacher's lecture online, the better, and then the higher the score the respondents will get. That is for correlational, descriptive correlational. And now we have the causal comparative. Okay, class, present pa rin si IV and the DV. However, class, you have here, okay, sets of respondents. Okay, the section A and the section B. Example, STEM 1 and the STEM 2. So, class, you need to draw, okay, you need to justify the common denominator of your two sets of respondents. Dapat may common denominator. So, example, they have the same strand, the same teacher as well. Ano pa bang posible? Basta kayo magdodraw ng parameters. But to make sure, class, dapat your two sets or kahit ilang sets pa of respondents yan, class, make sure they have common denominators for us to compare the result. Okay? So, class, same sila, class, ng IV and DV but differs from the research method. And definitely, we'll be having different findings. Okay? I have here naman, class, this is under class non-experimental. So, punta tayo with experimental, paano siya i-apply. So, class, in case you are dealing with experimental, okay, method, ito siya, class. Example na to, class, the pre-test, post-test. Okay, again, we have your IV and DV, discussion, and the quiz. So, class, magkakaroon muna ng pre-test, and then, what is the result? And then, magkakaroon tayo ngayon ng intervention. Okay? Which is the teacher's online discussion. And then, we'll be having the post-test. And then, what is the quiz result? So, meron bang similarities between the quiz result okay, during the pre-test and the post-test. So meaning to say, class, it's now part of the experimental kasi you have given treatment on your independent variable. Unlike on the causal and correlational, as is lang siya, class. Parang you're just simply observing what will be the outcome of the findings depending on the actions of the IV and your DV. Unlike in experimental under pre-test and post-test, you provided some treatment, okay, some intervention, okay, specifically on your independent variable, and therefore the result or the dependent variable may be affected. Okay? All right. So class, we have here naman, okay, experimental static group comparison. Okay? Present pa rin class, section A and section B. Okay? Pareho silang nag-quiz, but class, okay, so section B, they have received a treatment, a discussion, okay, from their subject teacher. And then section A, wala. Diretso with the quiz. So class, again, with the same set of IV and DV, okay, iba pa rin yung magiging result depending on what research method you'll be utilizing. Diba? Ito yung sinasabi ko, the beauty of research method. Na no matter how your IV and DV different, I mean the same, okay, parehong-pareho at all, but if you'll be using different research method, then definitely, class, you'll be having different findings. So make sure, class, that your research title, statement of the problem, conceptual framework, and even your research method must be aligned and consistent from one another. Okay? Alright. So class, no, kung ang plano mo is the statement of the problem and then you'll be using a wrong method, therefore, hindi ideal ang magiging findings nila. You are knocking on the wrong woods. Okay? So class, share ko lang sa inyo. Ito yung favorite kong ginagawa or ginagamit na research method. Okay? It also falls under, class, on the descriptive. Okay? Descriptive, so meaning to say non-experimental siya. Okay? So I have here independent variables, different subjects, different sets of respondents, and then the DV implementation of face-to-face, limited face-to-face classes. So gusto ko lang malaman yung kanilang level of, okay, agreeness, okay, pagsang-ayon, okay, elementary, high school, college. Baka kasi ang dumating sa findings, may expected findings is dahil bata ang elementary, di ba, mga bagets. Okay, but baka they are not yet ready to have the face-to-face. Unlike sa college, they are much gigil to have their own limited face-to-face classes. And sa high school naman, hati yung decision. It's either parang sunod na lang sila sa majority or the decision of the department heads. Okay? So sa cross-sectional class, gusto ko to kasi I can see the perceptions or the answers of different personalities or sectors in our society. Diba? Example, yun kaya class sa Pulse Asia. Example, hindi ako masyadong nag-agree sa naging findings sa Pulse Asia. I am not saying na they are using wrong formula, no? Kasi for sure, gumagamit yan ng statistical formula. Gusto ko lang malaman from what sector of our society, of our nation, nanggaling yung respondents. Kasi ang naka-indicate lang doon is 1,000 persons. So, sino, saan galing yung 1,000 persons na yun? Hindi naman nila dinidisclose. Randomly pick ba yun? Or they set different sectors, halimbawa, from the working class, from the blue-collar jobs, from this kind of field, ganun sana, dinidisclose nila. Kaya dahil hindi naman nila dinidisclose, hindi ko masyadong pinapansin. Ayun ha. If you just see the beauty of research, maiintindihan nyo bakit. Alright? So class, last na to. Okay, under the non-experimental, under the descriptive, okay, we have the developmental. So class, okay, ito yung mga study na output-based, okay, product-based, na they're not just simply focusing on the paper, but also they're paying attention on the product or the output of their study or investigation. Okay, let me have this example class. No class, no, since you are dealing with a output-based study, therefore, you have this IPO framework, the input, process, and output. Pero kung hindi naman siya output-based, I repeat, there is no need for the IPO framework. Okay? So I have here class a sample study, Escolarium, a budget-friendly educational app. So kung gusto mo dagdagan yan and the level of the satisfaction of the ganito students, para mag-appear lang yung IB and DB. Pero ito class, pwede na mag-stand alone yung title na ganito. Titignan na lang sa paper kung sino yung maging respondents of the study. Okay, so class, yung inspiration of the study, kasi study to class ng students ko last year. Okay, in-evaluate nila yung pros and cons ng GMIT. And they found out na malaki yung kinakain na data, kinoconsume na data ni GMIT. So they come up with a Scholarium, an application wherein mas budget-friendly siya. So naghanap sila yung nag-design, nag-develop, and then yung respondents nila class, yung mga IT experts, app developers, and as well the students because ito yung respondents nila. Sila yung gagamit, the end users of the Scholarium. So class, to baka feeling ninyo, dali-dali gumawa ng output-based na study. No, it's still a tedious process. It requires a lot of patience. Okay? Alright. So are we good with the research method? So no class, I hope and I pray you can now visualize, picture what research method is really applicable on your study. Okay, so let's have the respondent and sampling. Class, I know we had this last sem. Okay, I'm aware about that. But in case class, right after you heard the discussion about the research method, baka na-realize nyo na, ay, magpo-causal kami aside from correlation. Mag-ano na lang kami, mag-content analysis. Ganun tagpo sa buhay nyo. Pwede pa naman class, kaya the research class is a ongoing revision process. Okay, kaya favorite term ko yung draft and revise. Okay, you keep on drafting and revising. Okay, so class, under respondent and sampling, which is part or component of the chapter 2, don't forget to include the location, okay, of the respondents and then the population and the sampling technique you'll be using, and then the table of distribution. So class, patawarin nyo na si Ma'am Kang, no? We have discussed also last sem, since you are dealing with a quantitative study, so meaning you are more encouraged to use the probability sampling than the non-probability sampling. But class, no, I do understand na in as much you want to utilize the probability sampling because you're being limited by our situation right now, you can utilize naman the class, the non-probability sampling. However, you have to justify it on the respondents and sampling part. Okay? You need to disclose that. You need to justify it. And then, ito yung kasalanan ko, class. Okay? Kasi I want you to relearn again how to compute. Relearn na again pa. No? I want you to relearn how to compute, okay, your sample size using this Lovin's formula. Pero class, may tinatawag naman tayong rawsoft.com. Searchable to class online, walang bayad, free to. I-assign mo lang class here. What is the margin of error? Gagamit natin class sa 0.5 I mean 0.05 ba? or 0.5. Sorry. Yes, 0.5 yata. And basta ang importante, the level of confidence, computin nyo na lang, numbers kasi yan, 95%. Okay? And then class, the response distribution, legit naman to, i-remain nyo na, i-stay nyo na siya as 50%. And then kung hindi nyo alam exactly, the number of the size of the population, okay, i-remain nyo na lang yung 20,000. Or if it's available, kung alam nyo, input nyo lang siya dito. And then si Rausop na automatically class yung magko-compute of your sample size. Ma'am, sana sinabi nyo na noon pa lang. Hindi sana hindi kami na-stress mag-compute using the Sloven's formula. Sorry na. It's so important kasi class na you know to do research computation manually. At the same time, alam nyo rin siya if you're given a chance to utilize such software or application. Diba? Kahit saan ka mapunta, may kuryente o wala, kaya mo mag-compute. May internet man o wala, kaya mo mag-compute. Okay ba? Okay. So class, for the last part, data gathering procedure, this is templated. Ma'am Kang will provide a templated flow of the data gathering procedure class. Don't you worry. Unless class magkakaiba kasi kayo ng respondents, definitely merong may iba doon, i-modify nyo na lang siya. You just have to modify it to state, okay, to narrate, okay, your procedures you've conducted to gather your data. So I have here class an example. So itong part na to class, this is an example of introductory part. Sabi ko naman sa inyo, hindi nyo na basta enumerate or i-list down yung ideas doon. Kailangan may introductory part. So level 1 class, lahat tayo. Ano to, by numbering naman to class. Posted a class on our Google Classroom, the sample content and format of the chapter 2. Pakihintay na lang. Okay, class? For the level 1, lahat tayo gagawin to. Kaya nga yung first task ninyo is your e-signature because you'll be writing a letter seeking for the approval or the permission of our administrators that you'll be conducting a survey. It can be inside LCUP or outside LCUP. Okay? And then for the level 2 class, this is case-to-case basis depending on the respondents you have, no? Kung inside inside LACO ka, mag-data gathering, okay na si level 1. Pwede na siya. Pero kapag si level 2 class ay outside LCUP at nagpa-require pa siya ng additional letter seeking naman for the permission of the organization of that of your respondents, there, kailangan niya mag-provide ng another letter. Okay? Pero i-justify nyo on that organization of your respondents na you already have the go signal to conduct the data gathering because inalaw na kayo ni level 1. Okay? And then on level 3 class, you need to affirm to clear out with your participants that all the information gathered will be treated with absolute confidentiality. That no matter what happens, hindi nyo i-disclose kahit kanino yung naging findings of, yung collected data nyo from them. Okay? Once again, class, the flow of the data gathering procedure is templated. Ayoko na kayong pahirapan because I want you to focus more on the research method you'll be utilizing. Okay? So for your task class, wala tayong meeting on the day 2 because you'll be dealing on your first draft of your chapter 2. When I say first draft, gagawin niyo pa lang yung 3 parts: research method, some respondents of the study, and the data gathering procedures. Okay, and the detailed instruction to be posted on our Google Classroom. So class, no, wala pang deadline for the first draft. I-ready nyo lang siya. Because by next week class discussion naman tayo of the 3 remaining parts. Okay, 3 remaining parts in class. And then, sa day 2 nun, kukomplituhin nyo na yung 6 parts of the chapter 2. And then, meron tayong the following week, di ba? Which is the week 4, I think. Week 4 or 5 yun, kung natatandaan ninyo. Okay, meron tayong time for the writing entirely of the chapter 2.